Board of Adjustment meeting for March 9th, 2023 to order. And let us now begin the meeting by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I have a couple of announcements to make. If you're in possession of a cell phone or some other type of electronic paging device, I ask that you put it on silent mode at this time. I don't actually know anybody who has a pager anymore, but also please note that all testimony is being tape recorded for the record. If you're going to speak, you'll be asked to state your name and address for the record first, and then go ahead with your input after you've been recognized by the chair. Members of the Board of Adjustment are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners, which with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts, 1 member at large, and 1 member appointed from the Planning Commission. And so now I'm going to go over a brief overview of our proceedings for this evening. I'll read out the variance request and open the public hearing. When I'm reading your request, I would ask that the applicant or their representatives come forward and have a seat in front of the board by the microphone. The applicant or their representative will be asked to state their name and address for the record. Then Environmental Services staff will provide a brief overview of the requested variance, the staff report, and if any correspondence has been received regarding the request. The applicant or their representative will then provide input, corrections, concerns, comments, and etc. Once the applicant or their representatives have provided their testimony, the board will discuss the request and ask questions of staff or the applicant or their representatives. Upon completion of the board questions, I will ask if there's anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request. If there is, I would ask the person come up to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and give their testimony. When all testimony is complete, I will ask the board members for a motion to close the public hearing. Once the motion is passed to close the public hearing, there will be no further input from the audience, from the applicant, or from Environmental Services staff, unless recognized by one of the chair or board members. The board will then review and discuss the findings of facts. The findings are a series of questions that the board is required to answer based on Minnesota statutes and the requirements of the said ordinance. Based upon the answers to these questions, the board will either grant or deny the variance request. All questions must be answered in the affirmative by the board, and once the findings are complete, there will be a motion to approve or deny the request based upon those findings. And so just a little bit of housekeeping before we call the applicant up. For attendance, everyone is present except for Jill this evening, and then since that is that case, I'll be abstaining from voting in case there should be a tie vote this evening. And so now we move to our first item, our only agenda item, a request from Nicholas Stahlberger of Belgrade from sections 5.12C and 10.211A 1A of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 for an after-the-fact variance to leave as constructed an addition on an illegal non-conforming agricultural accessory structure that is in the shore impact zone and less than 200 feet from the ordinary high water level of a lake classified natural environment. Also to construct an agricultural accessory structure less than 200 feet from the OHWL as a lake classified natural environment. Said ordinance does not allow additions to a non-conforming structure that is wholly or partly within the shore impact zone and does not allow additions or new structures less than 200 feet from the ordinary high water level of a lake classified natural environment. Affected property is 177.33A, Lot 3, Section 10, Lake Henry Township, and the address of the property is 33739 County Road 32, Belgrade, Minnesota. And I'll do kind of a roll call to see who's able to do a site visit. Rob?
No.
George?
No.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I did as well. And so now to the applicants, if you'll please state your name and address for the public record. Thank you.
My name is Annie Stahlberger. Nick is my husband. Address 33739 County Road 32, Belgrade, Minnesota 56312.
My name is John Yernosen. Annie's my daughter. My address is 17593 280th Street, Park Rapids, Minnesota.
Thank you very much. And now Environmental Services for your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The applicant owns a meets and bounds tract that contains 177.33 acres that is adjacent to Lake Henry. The property is in an A80 zoning district. The applicant purchased the property on a contract for deed in 2011. There is an existing residential dwelling that was constructed in 1968 per the Stearns County Assessor's records. There is also a 2,592 square foot structure / barn that was constructed on or before 1965 per the Stearns County aerial photography. All the other existing structures on the property were permitted or allowed per the Stearns County feedlot staff. The existing subsurface sewage treatment system that services the dwelling was permitted and constructed in 2014. The system is required to have a compliance inspection as part of this variance application. The compliance inspection must be completed on or prior to June 15th of 2023. The applicant is requesting an after-the-fact variance to leave as constructed a 1,080 square foot addition onto the structure / barn that was originally constructed prior to 1965. The addition was constructed in 2019. The applicant is also requesting to construct a new 2,000 square foot agricultural accessory structure. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of Lake Henry, which is classified natural environment. Lake Henry is on the list of impaired waters for nutrients. The existing subsurface sewage treatment system that services the residential dwelling will need to be certified by June 15th of 2023. The current impervious lot coverage is approximately 1%. The proposed impervious lot coverage, if the variance is granted, will have minimal change just because of the size of the property. Alternatives to this request would be to construct new structures or add on to existing structures that are meeting all the requirements of the Land Use and Zoning Ordinance. Lake Henry Township, Sauk River Watershed District, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified, and we did not receive any other correspondence with regards to this request. Thank you.
Very good. And so applicants, anything you wish to state to the board, now is your time.
Do you have any questions for us, I guess? I'm sorry. Am I supposed to press
You're
it?
good. You're good.
Oh, sorry. Do you have any questions for us?
So the question I would have is, your proposed new shop or building or whatever you call it, why can't it be built to the west of that current shop to abide by the setback?
So can you show us on the map where you're referring to? Okay. I think there's a septic system. The septic system is back there.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I can speak on behalf of that portion. So if you see, I can't show you there, but right there, this is their mound septic drain field. And so no structures can be placed on top of that. Now, we don't specifically have a structure setback to it. Our kind of rule of thumb we try to tell people is try to stay at least 10 feet from it, so that if you have to do any work on your structure or if you have to do anything to the septic system, you're not affecting the other, if that makes sense. So that area would be out of, would not be able to have a structure placed on it.
Okay, so my next question would be then what about to the north of that existing building?
Okay.
I'm gonna show you this map here, and I apologize that I did not have this in your packet. But this was something that we had talked about when they came in originally. So this area are wetland areas, and so they wouldn't be allowed to construct in there. Now, I'm not saying there isn't room, possibly. And I can't speak on behalf of, this. I don't know if this is wetland, but this is the National Wetland Inventory. That area, those two areas probably are pretty wet, I would guess, and probably couldn't have a structure on them. Now, I think when you guys were in the office, I remember your husband saying that this area is lower than here. I guess I don't know if this is wetland or not. That would, we would require like our wetland staff to go visit if they wanted to put a structure there. So I'm not saying that it's not possible, but I'm also not guaranteeing that that is an area that you could have a structure. There's certainly, I don't know what like what the land's like here, but are there areas potentially?
So the only way for me to do this is to get up here and show. So what I was thinking of in here,
Okay.
and what is this?
Just granary.
Yeah.
I have a question. Jamie, maybe you can answer this one. Do you know, are there tile lines running in this property and where exactly they are?
That I do not know, and I'm going to have to defer that to the property owners.
Yes, our land is tiled.
I don't know if you want to use this at all.
Do you know where they are, Annie, or kind of?
I apologize, I do not.
That's
I
okay.
wish my husband could be here, but he has chores, so,
Yep, nope, understandable. So,
yeah, it's wet. I mean, back there,
So I-
Maybe I'm out of line, but if you look at the rectangle, where it wants to be built,
That little one there, that's a button. If
This
you
one?
click that, then you can point.
right here, this area here, there was an existing, let's call it shed there.
garage.
And this is the fourth generation farm, so it's time to do a little upgrading, I think. I don't know if anybody's seen it, has been there. It's time to make some better plans. And to me, or to Annie and Nick, it's a viable area because there's a building there. It's just removing that building, getting the variance you need, and I know it's not that simple, but that's the end goal here.
But that location doesn't abide by the setback.
That's why we're here today, I guess, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
You're
that's
right.
why
So
we're
that's why I'm asking the question, is there an alternate location? And I don't think I got an answer about my proposal just to the northwest of the existing structure there.
Okay, can you show us again, please? Sorry.
there's
There's a
another
shed
shed
there, yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Oh, everything's pretty old on our farm, so,
And I'm sure it's being used, even the shed that's there is being used, but it's time for an upgrade. I mean,
Annie, just a quick question. Now, when I this shed that you guys want to build, I believe your husband, when I talked to him, he wanted to use it for fixing things, correct?
correct.
So the current building's there. There's no way you can pull machinery into what's there because of the size of the doors and everything. And let's be honest, machinery nowadays is huge.
Yep, yeah. And it's by our other one, so he wants to maybe put a breezeways, to go back and forth, storage and go back and forth is our whole point. We do have that, it's a smaller garage there, we just use it for storage, but that's the whole point of being here, to take that down, to add hopefully a bigger one to accommodate.
and George, to your point, if I may go up here and show you, I think his original plan was to come out this one and come back this way. But the problem is he's getting too close to the septic. And he said, I think he spent $15,000 putting that septic in, and he doesn't want to fear against the septic.
And
back
it's
there.
wet back there.
I know, yeah.
Oh, in our whole grove of trees, so.
Any other questions?
And Bonnie Mossman, I'll just make a comment about the lean-to that's added on to the existing building. That existing building is probably, from looking at it, it's got those clay tiles, so it was probably built in the 30s or the 40s originally, I'm guessing, because that's kind of when those clay tile barns were built. So I'm sure that's just kind of grandfathered in as far as where it is. And with the barn cleaner sticking out the side, I think that adding that building on the side is a real asset to the lake. Because right now with the barn cleaner there, when you back up a manure spreader, no matter how careful you are, there's going to be some that splashes over the sides. And where's it going to go? It's going to run down the hill into the lake. And now with the building there, that prevents any manure from escaping from that area. So to me, I think that, actually, even though it's too close to the lake, I think it's a bonus to preserving the lake.
And just on a side note too, the DNR, there's no public access or anything to our lake. I know you two ladies were at our house, but no public access. They've been coming to our house for
40.
probably over 40 years to use our access. You can certainly contact them if you have further questions about that. We have never had any issues. I guess.
I think, Bonnie, to your point, the DNR would support the lean-to. You made a very good point, because the below is concrete. And when it rains, it comes off the roof. It would have come off the roof. The nitrates would have ran down the hill and where they ended up in Lake Henry.
And you guys also use that lean structure. I believe he had straw or hay in
if
there.
anyone
and
wants
then
Hey,
he
pictures
uses
We
it
got
to-
pictures if you'd like to
And he
see them.
uses it to mix his feed in there, correct?
Say it again, please.
He uses his TMR mixer in there too to
No.
mix
Nope.
No.
Just hay.
just hay?
Just hay,
Just hay.
straw, and then here you can see like the manure auger comes out of it. Okay. Here's,
you want me to-
probably the same one. Here's, I don't know, this is a good picture too. There's one.
Which with the lean on there, it helps prevent the snow and the ice forming on top of there, because when you have to bust bales apart to feed cows, that is not fun when there's 3 inches of
Right.
ice.
Would anybody like to see the photos we have here? Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sure.
I'm sorry.
This is just of our old, our old barn, like the,
And I believe when I talked to your husband, he said the old barn, it was a round
Yep.
roof,
You-
and
you-
you guys had replaced it because it was,
You'll see
You'll
see.
in the photos.
it was,
Oh, my goodness. This is modern technology.
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, there, that works. So that's our old, so original plan is just to redo that, and then as time went on, we just wanted to add that lien and had the contractors there, so that's why we're here.
So the work on the barn, the original renovation that you just recently did, that was done by a contractor?
Yes.
And the contractor didn't talk about getting a permit or anything like that?
I did not talk to the contractor at all. So
Somebody must have.
I did not, so.
Annie, who did your work?
A couple people, Nick did it, and then just a friend did it just to help out.
Where did
too.
you
So
get
it
the
wasn't a
supplies in that
contractor.
from? Did you get it from like Hennen's
Bork
or
Lumber in Painesville.
Painesville? Okay.
Mhm.
I would think any contractor that's working 50 feet from water is going to tell you that you're going to need a permit to do that. I just don't understand why that whole step was bypassed.
Yeah, I guess I have a question on that too. I mean, it never crossed anybody's mind to come to the county and get a permit to add on to that building?
Honestly, we were just replacing the roof, as you can see, and then last minute decision, we decided to put that lien on.
But don't you think that was kind of short-sighted not to think about a permit? You're adding on to a structure? You didn't know that it was required?
I didn't know that it was required if we weren't like taking the structure down, we were just,
But you added on to it, right? You added on to it.
you're correct, we did.
Any other questions, comments from members of the board? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion, please, to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Motion from George,
I'll second it.
second from Rob. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the public hearing is now closed, and so now we're starting with, I believe, the after-the-fact findings, right? The first order of business, I think? Yeah. All right, is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, are we dividing these two up and looking at,
Yeah, so
Okay.
these are two different, yep, so finding it
So
after
which
the
one
fact, and then we'll do the new one after
Okay,
that.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I would say yes, it is, because it's an A80 zoning district, and agricultural buildings are allowed in A80s.
All right, that's a yes from Bonnie. Rob?
Yes.
George?
yes,
Amy?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
So that's a yes for number one. Number two, is the variance in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official control? Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say no. Agriculture plays a big part for Stearns County, but I don't believe that it supersedes the fact that you have to protect the water. It's 50 feet from the water, and it's a natural environmental lake, which is shallower and doesn't have the capacity to carry the nutrients that the two farms on the lake are putting into it.
Okay, no from Rob. George?
no,
Bonnie?
I would say yes, because for that same reason of protecting the lake, by putting a structure over where the barn cleaner is, that is preventing manure from seeping into the lake.
All right, Amy?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
All right, so with three there, that's a yes for number two. Or, yeah. Is the variance request consistent with the comprehensive plan for number three, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes for that one. I'm looking at the comp plan of the agricultural use policies, number 3. It says to encourage agricultural practices that allow for coexistence with sensitive natural resources. And I believe by putting that building there, it's preventing manure from getting to the lake, which really is a good way to coexist with the natural resources.
All right, it's a yes from Bonnie. Rob?
No.
George?
I'm going to say no because it doesn't adhere under the nature goal. It doesn't adhere to the adapted plans and regulations that maintain, restore, and enhance the county's water resources.
Amy?
I'm going to agree with Bonnie and say yes, it does fall under agriculture use policies number 3, and I think it falls under number 4 somewhat too.
Mike?
I'm gonna go with yes.
All right, it's a yes for number 3. Number 4, is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by an official control? Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to say yes, it is.
All right, a yes from Amy. Rob?
Yes.
George?
Yes,
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
So it's a yes for number 4. Number 5 is applied to the landowner due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to say no because they failed to get a permit to do this.
No from George. Rob?
No.
Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes because of, this barn has historically been there for quite a number of years, and they're just trying to make an improvement, and this improvement protects the lake.
All right, a yes from Bonnie. Amy?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
All right, number 5 is a yes. Number 6, will the variance maintain the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
I don't believe it'll change the character of the locality at all, so
Okay.
I would say yes.
Yes from Bonnie. Rob?
Yes.
George?
Yes,
Amy?
Yes.
Mike? Yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes, it has more to do with the operation of the agricultural business than it would of economics.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. George.
Yes.
Rob.
No.
Amy.
Yes.
And Mike.
Yes.
All right, so it's a yes for number 7. So with number 7, or all questions being answered in the affirmative, we would look for a motion for the approval of a variance for the after the fact finding.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the after fact.
Okay, motion from Amy,
I'd like to second.
second from Mike. Rob,
No.
Bonnie,
Yes.
George,
No.
and let's see if I can read my notes. Did I get you, Bonnie?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yep. All right, so that is an affirmative, yes. So the after the fact part is granted for you. So now we move toward the new structure that, all right, so again, similar questions, but just, yep. All right, number 1, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning districts in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes from Amy. Rob,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Yes for number 1. Number 2, the variance will be in
Chair,
harmony.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we need to make sure we have a response other than just yes. We need to give a reasoning for our findings of fact. Okay?
This is allowed in the A80 Agriculture District.
Okay. Yes for number 1. Number 2, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls, yes or no?
I'm going with yes, it will not change or alter the building site. Actually, it'll make it look nicer, and it'll keep everything in that compact area.
Okay. Yes from Amy. Rob?
I'm going to say no. The 200-foot setback is the 200-foot setback. It's not conforming. They have 7 or 8 non-conforming structures already on the property.
There is also a structure behind there already that's existing.
Okay. George?
I'm a no.
Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes, and I'll quote 9.3.1 when it talks about let's see, where was I reading? Providing flexibility of things that are not allowed in the A80 and A40 by allowing for agriculture with limited viability.
There's 177 acres of flexibility there.
Mike?
Yes.
Yes for number 2. Number 3, the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to say no because it doesn't abide by the setback.
Okay. No from George. Rob? Number 3.
I'm going to say no also under the Lakeshore Living Policies number 3, discouraging the alteration of natural shorelands and the creation of impervious surface area near shore areas.
Okay. No from Rob. Bonnie?
I'm going to say yes for the reason that one of our goals is to preserve viable agricultural areas, and so they're not putting it in those areas, and also it would be difficult to put it in other locations because of the wetland and the septic system.
Okay. Yes from Bonnie. Amy?
I am yes, and I do feel that it falls under agriculture use policies number 3 as well. And keep in mind, there are tile lines running in that property that we don't know where they are.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, that's a yes for number 3. Number 4, the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, I'm a yes.
Okay, yes from Amy. Rob? Yep.
Not knowing exactly where tile lines are, we know there's a septic back there and other buildings. I do feel that it is the best spot to put the facility.
Okay, Rob?
No.
George?
No.
Bonnie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes, I feel it also is the best place logically to put it higher ground. The other opportunities from what you look at are lower ground, and everything is lower there.
And they are replacing an existing building.
Actually, two, isn't there a small little building back there too that'll go?
That'll improve the building site as
So
well.
it'll be two.
So that's a yes for number 4. Number 5, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to say no. The circumstances for the building location is completely based on the property owners. They have 177 acres. If they have to move the equipment an extra 50 to 100 feet, I don't see where that's really a big problem for them.
Okay, no from Rob George.
I'm a no also for the same reasoning.
Okay, Bonnie.
I'm going to say yes for the reason that there's two smaller buildings that are being removed, and it'll, make more practical use of the farmyard.
Okay, a yes from Bonnie. Amy.
And I'm a yes. It'll make accessibility to fixing machinery, getting crops harvested, fixing all that fun breakdown stuff. So yes.
Mike.
Yes, for the same reasons.
Yes from Mike, so it's a yes for number 5. Number 6, the variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
I'm going to say it's not going to change the appearance of the character of the area there.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Rob.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Amy.
I'm a yes, and I think it'll make the property look a lot more presentable.
Mike.
Yes.
Okay, yes for number 6. Number 7, the need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
Bonnie Mossman, I'm going to say yes. It's the functionality of the agricultural business over economics.
Okay, yes from Bonnie. Rob.
I'm going to say no. It's putting, again, the agricultural over the water.
Okay, no from Rob. George.
I'm a no also for the same reasoning.
Okay, Amy.
I'm a yes.
And Mike.
Yes.
Yes for number 7. So since all questions have been answered in the affirmative, I would be looking for a motion and a second to grant the variance request.
I'll make a motion to grant the request.
Okay, motion from Bonnie,
I'll second it.
second from Amy. Rob,
No.
George,
No.
Mike.
Yes.
With that, your motion or variance request is granted. If you have any questions, please do contact staff during regular business hours. Thank you.
Good luck.
And then that moves us to minutes. Yep. I think everybody's got a everybody got to get a copy of the minutes as presented.
I didn't bring mine with, but
Can I get if everybody's perused it, can I get a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion from Amy. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, man.
In unison.
Or third.
He can have it.
Okay, I'll give it to Rob. All those in favor of the approval of minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then our next meeting is April 13th. How many items do we have on that agenda?
The deadline is Monday.
Mhm.
As of right now, we have 2.
Okay.
It sounds like there might be at least one more coming in.
Okay.
So.
Very good.
But we never know until
that's
Monday
true.
comes, unfortunately. Sometimes they come out of the woodwork and it's like,
Oh, exactly.
nobody's even talked to this person. Where did this one come from?
Is it something you can give us an idea about or not?
Mm-mm.
I honestly
Okay.
don't know. It's not my meeting. We move it to the next person. And so I think it's Brian's meeting. I believe one has been to the board, got a variance, and then ended up putting more impervious than what they were supposed to. And if I remember correctly, I think that one might have like 3 or 4 different requests in one. So it's going to be one of those.
a little complicated.
It's going to be a lot more complicated. And then the other one I think is pretty straightforward. It's just like a lake setback or something like that, so. Actually, it actually might even be just a road setback. Yeah,
Those are good.
Yeah,
yeah.
township
Just
approves
a
or the
quick
county
thing,
approves.
next time you get an egg one, is it something you can find out where tile lines and all that lay? That's a great question. Just to be helpful, because
Yeah.
I don't know if, are you guys tile lines and farmland? I mean, it's nice to know where they're running.
Yeah.
A lot of times they
I have not had that request before. I mean, we've had people who are, like Dave Gamrat was a farmer and he has never made that request. I certainly can maybe add that to our checklist to maybe provide us with a map of tile lines on the property. You know, if we give them an aerial photo, they could kind of draw them in where, if they know where they are.
You can't just go in there and rip a tile line up.
Right.
It's kind of nice to know where they're
On
But they
177
obviously never put
acres.
any thought into that because she had no idea where the tile was.
Right.
Right, but it's something, if we ask the question, you know, if you have 177 acres, to the point you guys were making, hey, you got a lot of area, and then Amy's point is, but there could be tile lines, there's other factors. So we should ask that question when we have agricultural properties looking to do something like that.
I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
too many egg properties that don't have tile lines running through them.
Where they are, how they're configured, different question, and oftentimes there isn't a tile plan. So, like,
The landowner and knows.
usually,
Map in their head where they are.
right. So
And-
we'll ask that.
And you said, well, the landowner didn't know this evening. Well, it's a husband and a wife situation. Oftentimes, unless the wife is really, really involved in the agricultural, she's not going to know where the tile lines are. I don't know where the tile lines are on our
I
farm.
can tell you that she was very nervous about coming to this because of questions that you guys might have, and she can't answer. And I know they had talked about trying to get somebody to do the farm chores tonight, but they just couldn't find anybody. And I know the husband really wanted to be there because he would be able to answer a lot more questions, even with the project that was done, that you had asked questions about why weren't permits pulled and stuff like that. I'm not saying she wasn't involved with that portion. I just know she was not very comfortable coming tonight because she was afraid she wasn't going to be able to answer a lot of your guys' questions. And so,
Well, back to that question we had in the past, why doesn't a contractor tell them that they need a permit?
yeah,
Is there-
I don't know if it was the contractor. She might have thought they were contractors. To me, it kind of sounded like they were friends.
They were buddies,
Well,
yeah.
But at the same time,
She said both.
ignorant, in my opinion, ignorance is not an excuse.
Yeah.
But at the same point, it came down to, again, her answering a question. I don't know if she was involved with deciding who was going to do it and what, like that, but.
Keep in mind too, that when the property was transferred, they may honestly have been clueless about getting some of this stuff.
I think it was owned by their parents, so it was a contract for deed, and I don't know if the parents are still around, but,
Who knows if that was all even disclosed in that contract?
Yeah.
I mean, you would
I-
hope it would be, but
yeah.
sometimes it's just a learning curve that we do.
But anybody, I'm not buying that. Anybody that's going to build something has enough common sense to know they need some kind of a permit to do it. They can't just go do it willy-nilly anymore.
Yeah.
It just,
When there's water involved.
yeah.
Yeah,
I would,
I tend to agree with you.
Super educated on it either.
Yeah.
So, is that negligence? No, I honestly don't think that they were educated.
and I would agree that the majority of people realize that when you build or change something, you need a permit.
Right.
But when I look at these, I always think about, well, if they had come for a permit or a variance before they built, would I have granted it? I don't want to punish them for not, we can't punish them for not getting a permit.
Yeah.
That's kind of a different issue than whether this building belongs there or not.
In a way, they were kind of asking to make it right by asking
Yeah.
for the after the fact,
Mhm.
after they knew everything.
No, they were only asking
No,
for it because they got caught.
They're forced
They-
them
They had to.
Right.
Exactly.
That's how
Yeah.
it actually came out,
Yeah.
was
They had to.
that they had to do that.
Yeah.
They had no choice. And then the new structure came out, well, if we're going to the board, maybe we should just, we would like to do a new structure, so maybe we should do that at this point as well. So Again, I don't,
Yep.
I don't know if they called because the redoing of the hoop
The barn.
from
Round barn.
what it was,
Yeah.
technically that would have required a permit from our office too,
Right.
because they were putting in all new, headers and stuff like that. If they were just taking off old shingles and replacing with new, we wouldn't require a permit for that.
Right, that's maintenance.
But because that was structural, they were actually putting all those, they redid that whole roof. It wasn't just maintenance to the building. So that's the, right.
I mean, nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And honestly, the new one now looks a lot better than what she had for pictures.
No, I agree with that as well. I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
But,
And just one question with the DNR, because that lake is used for a walleye hatchery. I would assume that the DNR is consistently testing that water. Because she
yeah, I
said
guess
they
I
were
don't
there.
know. They must,
When I talked to her husband, when I was on site, he said that the DNR is there multiple times a week
yeah,
checking things on that lake because it's a hatchery.
yeah.
And you could see a trail, a snowmobile trail that went through by the barn, and she said, well, that's just there because that's how the DNR gets
That's
out
how
to the lake.
DNR gets down to the lake, sure.
So my concern with the lake is if the DNR is there several times a week, they're watching the quality of that water if it's used for a hatchery for the walleye.
Think of what those
Well,
old
they-
shingles were made out of.
Right.
Yeah.
They must be watching it because they labeled it as impaired
Yeah.
from nutrients. And since there's no houses or anything, the nutrients have to come from the two farms that are on the lake.
Right.
So,
And so I'm thinking
But
if
it's
there would
still-
be a problem, they'd be hearing about it right away from the DNR if there'd be a problem since it's a hatchery.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
No, next
Yep.
time, just need
But-
to
Yeah,
The
I'll
grass.
definitely add that to our checklist
Yep.
for ag properties to try and at least get some sort of a map for you guys. Now, if they don't know where the tile lines are, I mean, we'll be able to, we'll just document that in the staff report or something. But I'm glad that you mentioned that because I've never thought of that, but I didn't grow up on a farm, and so that is not something that came to my mind at all, so.
Well, and it depends on what part of the county you're in. There's parts of the county that,
they're heavy ground.
like our farm,
Not every place is tiled.
I would be really surprised if there's any tile on our farm at
They're
all.
all tiled.
Yeah.
I know even next sand ground fields, that's why they have irrigation
Yeah.
systems, so you don't find tile lines out in sand ground.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn,
Good
second.
discussion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Rob. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you for doing that, James.
Thanks, guys.
Now back to Woodbury.